I have it easy. I sit in this chair and I talk about watches. I talk about the watches I like and the ones I don't like. I talk about what companies are doing well and not so well. I've praised Christopher Ward for some things. I've bashed Swatch Group for what I see are some of their shortcomings. But rarely do I actually provide solutions to their challenges. I'm like a McKinsey consultant. I come in, I tell you what needs fixing, and then I leave as quickly as possible to avoid any type of accountability. But not today. Today I'm giving positive advice to brands. Realistic and sometimes completely unrealistic and unsolicited advice to big established brands that have been in the business for centuries. And I'm perfectly qualified. I've never worked in the watch industry. I have no engineering degree and I have no design degree. I'm just a dude.
Wait, let me explain something to you. I am not Mr. Lebowski. You're Mr. Lebowski. I'm the dude.
But don't kid yourself, you've sat there second-guessing the play decision made by the Bills coach in the Super Bowl against the Giants. Some of you think you could have done better than Russie in a recent game against Australia. We all do it. So why not me? It's going to be fun. Let's dive in. Left field and likely unrealistic option. They should deliver the next Bond watch. Hamilton is all about movies. They have the Murph, which was from Interstellar. They've even made a watch for the Dune movie. They've been doing Hollywood collaborations since like 1939. Bond is on paper maybe a bit too British and too upscale for the value positioning that Hamilton has. But Bond wore a Seiko at one point. So why not a Hamilton? They're tool watches. There's a story you can craft around James Bond's military background. Field work. Less embassy and more hand-to-hand combat. I can see it work, and it would give Hamilton a whole other level of exposure, way over what they could ever achieve with Dune or Interstellar type movies. Rolex, I want the Milgauss back. I want the Z Blue. I would prefer it without the polished center links of the previous model. It would be cool if it had the new Dynapulse movement inside. That would be really fitting with the Milgauss being associated with Rolex's most modern and most innovative movement. It would be an enthusiast favorite. It would be impossible to get initially, but it would be doable over time because the Milgauss has never been the strongest seller compared to the GMTs and the Subs and the Daytona. And yes, my suggestion is boring, but it's probably still more exciting than what Rolex themselves come up with. If you're new here, I also have some advice for you. Do you see the subscribe button below? Click it, or at least consider it. You won't regret it. Thanks a ton. Right now, Tudor has the lineup that Tudor needs. They're not all called Black Bays, but the catalog is as such complete. They've got a sports watch, they've got a chrono, they've got a desk diver, and they've got more serious divers in the Pelagos and the more military models of the FXD. And I want the following. I want a series of FXDs associated with specific military units across the world. The Marine Nationale, of course, is explicitly connected to French forces. The Black FXD is only, well, it's adjacently associated with the Navy SEALs. I know brands like Tudor and Omega and Rolex do make unit-specific models on occasion, but that's only for the servicemen. And I know it's hard to believe, but I'm not a former Special Forces soldier. I know it's shocking, right? But it's true, I'm not. I, though, would be totally sold on a series of FXDs linked to SEALs and Army Rangers and the SAS and Marine Nationale and the Danish Frogmen and, onwards. I would dig small variations for all of them. Maybe some of them with different movement options, maybe another GMT, maybe a world timer movement. It would have to be limited editions, but I think they would be infinitely collectible. Probably not that feasible because you have to get the approval of all those military institutions, but it would be completely Pokemon. I would have to have them all. And just to prove it, and second time I do a wristwatch check in a while, FXD, Pelagos, Alinghi, I love it. I'm totally hooked on the FXD model. It's a fabulous watch. I want an Ingenieur moon phase. Simple as that. The perpetual calendar is ridiculously cool, but a moon phase would be better for 3 reasons. All things being equal, it would be a little bit smaller and more wearable than a perpetual calendar. The dial layout of moon phases, I think, is just typically better. Moon phases are just good looking. They make for visual interest without sacrificing legibility, which you often do with perpetual calendars. It's just less busy on the dial. And overall, it would be cheaper. IWC also needs to update their Aquanaut, especially to bring back the GST version. I think that was a fabulous version. That would be absolutely amazing if they brought a variant of that back. One of the year's best watches is the Nomos World Timer. They've had the Nomos Zurich Weltzeit for several years, but the Club World Timer just took that idea to the next level. They gave us a really cool complication on a really cool watch, and I'm getting a bit repetitive here, with a really cool layout and really cool colorways. And I want one, maybe two things from Nomos. I want a club chronograph with an in-house non-modular chronograph movement. And I want a tangente calendar, maybe a big date, ideally an annual calendar. Just think what a brand like Nomos and their design language could do with a chrono or a calendar dial layout. Nomos have no chronos. They don't have a lot of complications in general, and that's because movements are expensive to make. But it would be so freaking cool. It's a big ticket investment, again, not super likely, but it would have massive potential. Or at least I'd buy one. Glasshutte Original watches are by no means cheap. Some people, a little bit unfairly, call them Lange Light. Why? Because they come from the same town and basically they have a watch like the Panamatic that bears more than a passing resemblance to the Lange 1. I have two asks. First, Glasshutte are kind of known for the 3/4 plate. It was a distinct difference from the Swiss approach, which involved multiple bridges in movements. The Germans don't need bridges. The Germans value efficiency, and the 3/4 plate is stable and efficient. But you know what would be cool? Let Glasshutte Original go to town in terms of hand engraving. We're talking about having a dial that not just goes up to 10.
Very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11.
I would love to see Glasshutte Original throw everything and the kitchen sink at the aesthetics to make a watch and a movement where nobody is left thinking, yeah, Lange could probably do it better. You know, just a show of force, like IWC did with the Eternal Calendar. My second ask, a little bit specific, but Glasshutte Original used to be in communist-occupied Eastern Europe. And under communism, Glasshutte Original were forced to make basically everyman socialist or communist watches, mass-produced watches for functionaries, bureaucrats, and regular people. And because they were under the communist era, a lot of the luxury and pizzazz of finer watchmaking was kept in the basement because it was ostensibly frowned upon. This was, in many ways, for Germany and for Glasshutte Original, a painful time in their history. And it's not quite the moon swatch that I'm looking for, but I would love to see Glasshutte Original do a time-limited everyman's watch. Maybe they have to do it with Swatch. I hope not. I prefer not to. But Glasshutte is so clearly positioned as a luxury semi-high-end brand. Their cheapest watches are around $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. But could they offer something maybe limited, something stellar at $3,000? I'm thinking of something like a Vacheron Constantin 56, which was their entry-level offering. A watch that packs as much value and as much Glasshutte Original quality into an as affordable as possible package. Is it good business sense? Maybe. But I think just also leveraging that part of their history would be cool. I've got a slightly different ask for Breguet, but I have at least two ideas I would pitch to Mr. Kissling or even to the people above him. And that is, get Reshepy or Kari Voutilanen or some other heavy hitter to do a watch with Breguet. Not just a piece unique, but something ridiculously special. Maybe 25 pieces or something like that. Something out of this world. Second, Breguet Innovation Lab. Give up-and-coming stars the opportunity to develop products under the Breguet name. This idea, I know, needs a little bit more development, but my thinking goes as follows. Breguet is a historic brand. There are countless technical innovations that exist because of Breguet. And right now, Breguet has technically impressive watches from highly skilled people that leverage that history. But what they largely aren't doing is being seen as innovative. What they were was the brand that did cool things. Now they're the brand that are known for having done cool things at some point. I want them to be the brand that again does cool things. That can be in terms of design and in terms of technology. Today, technical prowess, at least to me, is usually attributed to brands like Jaune or Richard Mille or Max Buser and Friends. I want Breguet to take that space and dominate it. And my thinking of opening the doors to externals, be that Reshepy or up-and-coming stars, is something that's worth exploring, to give it that edge of this is the space where you go to try something completely cutting edge. Formex, make the Ceramica in green with a meteorite gold dial. Call it the Springbok. I'll buy one, totally just for me. The PRX has been a smash hit for Tissot, and rightly so. It's a great watch. It's aimed at younger people. It's well designed. I have very few, if any, bad things to say about it. But could they do a PRX dive watch with a dive bezel? Similar to what AP have done with the Royal Oak Offshore or Zenith have done with the Dive Extreme. I think the integrated shape could lend itself to that kind of design. And it might add a little bit of thickness, but I think it would be an absolutely positively mesmerizing option. Omega. It's not like Omega needs more variants. I'm fairly certain they have an intern employed with the title of Global Director of throwing watches at the wall and seeing what sticks. But I would like to try true customization. An online or in-store configurator where you mix and match the watch as you want it for selected models like the Seamaster 300M or the Speedmaster Moonwatch. So you pick the case, you pick the movement, you pick the dial combo, you pick the bezel, maybe also the bracelet. Plus, you can also custom engrave it. I know it's not going to be anywhere near as easy as custom configuring your Oakley shades, and it's likely going to cost a premium, but I can see it work, and I can see it being fun, and I can see it being edgy and saying something about custom orientation. And then, of course, they could clean up the lineup and variants. The catalog is just too big right now. They've got lots of good stuff. I just think there's stuff that doesn't need to be there. The Constellation, I know from friends abroad that this is a model that's much more popular in Asia, but I'd like an update. Integrated bracelet watches are still a thing at the moment, and at least in terms of Western sensibilities, the Constellation just doesn't seem to hit the mark. Maybe an integrated Aquaterra could be an idea. Those were some of my ideas. The good thing about all of this is if they don't come out with any of them, I can complain and keep saying that that's what they should do and they would be successful if they did. If they do, then I can take the credit, unless, of course, it turns out to be an absolute disaster, then I'll just deny everything. What are your ideas? Go wild. Share in the comments. Maybe some executive will actually read the comments on my humble little channel. You never know. You might be responsible for Omega's next big thing. Let's see what we can do. Like, subscribe. Cheers.